I never expected that a quiet midnight on the couch would lead my grandson to reveal something that would change both our lives. What he told me made my heart stop, yet opened a door we'd both been afraid to touch. Before I tell you the whole story, let me know in the comments which city you're watching us from. And before you settle in to listen, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and give this video a like. Now let me begin. I remember that night with surprising clarity, almost as if the shadows in the living room still stretch across my memory. The clock had just touched midnight, that funny hour when the world feels softer, as though it's giving you permission to finally breathe. My grandson Jack had asked if he could stay over because he just needed a little company. He's 23 now, grown enough to have his own life, but still young in that way that reminds me of how fast time slips through our fingers. We were watching some old reruns, the kind you don't pay full attention to, but keep on because the background noise fills the spaces where loneliness might settle. The lamp beside the couch cast a warm glow, making the room feel smaller, cozier, almost like a shelter from whatever worries he carried with him. He wasn't talking much, though. His shoulders kept dropping in that defeated way people have when they're holding in more than they think they're allowed to say. I noticed, of course. Grandmothers always notice. But I didn't push him. I just waited, letting the quiet stretch comfortably between us. At one point, the TV flickered, and for a second the room dipped into near darkness. When the light returned, I saw him watching me instead of the screen. Really watching. The kind of look that sends a little ripple of concern through a woman's chest, no matter her age. "Grandma," he said softly, almost unsure, "can I tell you something without you judging me?" That alone set my heart into a slow, cautious thump. There's a particular vulnerability in a young man's voice when he's asking for a safe place to land, and something about that moment felt heavier than his usual troubles with work, bills, or the confusing maze of adulthood. I shifted a bit closer, not touching him, just giving him room to feel that I was right there. "Of course you can," I said. "You know that." He swallowed hard. His eyes glistened just slightly in the lamp's warm light. And for a moment, he seemed like the little boy who used to run into my kitchen, asking for cookies and telling me his wild stories about superheroes and backyard adventures. But this wasn't a child's confession. He took a breath, deep and shaky, and I felt the air in the room change, like the night was holding still just for us. "I haven't told anyone this," he murmured, "and I'm scared to say it out loud, but I don't know who else to talk to." My chest tightened, but not from fear, from tenderness. I rested my hand lightly on the blanket between us, close enough to show support, far enough to let him choose whether he needed more. "What is it, sweetheart?" I asked. "You can trust me. Always." He stared at the TV again, but his voice had already stepped into something deeper. "It's about who I am, and how lost I've been feeling about it." The way he said those words, soft, shaking, weighted by years he must have held them alone, sent a quiet chill through me. Not fear, not shock, but the kind of tension that comes when you realize someone is about to open a door they've kept locked for far too long. And in that moment, I understood that whatever he was about to share would reshape us both, not in a dramatic, movie-like way, but in the gentle, human way that happens when truth finally finds a voice. That was how the night began. And nothing was simple after that. The room was quiet except for the soft hum of the TV, but somehow it felt louder than usual. I could feel Jack's tension like a weight in the air between us. He finally put down the remote, his fingers brushing the couch cushion like he was trying to anchor himself. I didn't interrupt. I've learned that sometimes silence can speak louder than words. "Grandma," he began, his voice barely above a whisper, "I've been feeling disconnected, like I'm living in someone else's story." He paused, struggling for the right words. "And I've been pretending for so long that I'm okay. Everyone thinks I have it together, but I don't." I leaned back slightly, keeping my eyes on him. letting him feel that I was present. His vulnerability tugged at something deep inside me. I thought of all the nights I'd watched him grow up, how he used to run into my arms when life got overwhelming. And here he was again, needing that same comfort, but in a way I'd never expected. "I'm glad you're telling me," I said softly. "You don't have to carry this alone." He nodded, but his gaze remained fixed somewhere beyond the lamp's soft glow. "It's more than just stress, Grandma. I think, I think I'm scared of who I really am. Scared that if I admit it, people won't understand. Maybe even I won't understand myself." My heart ached, seeing him wrestle with thoughts so heavy he could hardly breathe. I reached over and placed my hand gently over his on the couch, not to force him to speak, but to give him the reassurance that he could. "I've known you since you were a little boy, Jack," I said, "and I've watched you grow into a thoughtful, kind, and honest person. Whatever it is, we'll face it together. You're not alone, and you're not a mistake." A tear escaped the corner of his eye, and I didn't try to stop it. Sometimes, letting emotions flow is the first step to healing. He took a deep breath and finally met my eyes. "Grandma, I think I'm different in a way I've been too scared to admit, and I don't know how to explain it without feeling judged." I squeezed his hand lightly. "Jack, we all have parts of ourselves that are scary to share. That doesn't make you wrong. It makes you human." For the first time that night, he smiled a little, timid, uncertain, but real. And in that fragile smile, I felt a bridge forming between us, one built on trust and acceptance rather than fear. We spent the next hour talking quietly, more about life and feelings than the TV shows flickering in the background. Each story he shared, each fear he voiced, seemed to peel away a layer of tension, revealing a young man who was brave enough to be seen, even in the rawest moments. When he finally curled up under the blanket beside me, there was a calmness that hadn't been there before. The night had started with uncertainty and tension, but it was ending with understanding and connection. And I realized, as I looked at Jack's peaceful face, that sometimes the most unexpected conversations, those whispered truths at midnight, can change the course of our hearts forever. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the curtains, painting the living room in soft golden streaks. Jack was still asleep on the couch, his head resting lightly against the armrest, and I watched him for a while, feeling a mixture of protectiveness and admiration. That night had shifted something between us. It was as if a wall had been gently pulled down, leaving space for honesty and understanding where there had only been quiet worry before. I decided to make coffee, hoping the aroma would coax him awake. As I poured the steaming liquid into mugs, I thought about how easy it is to assume that our loved ones have it all together, only to realize that beneath the surface, everyone carries their own battles. Jack had never really complained, never really asked for help, until last night, and now he was slowly beginning to let me in. When he finally stirred, his eyes blinking against the light, he gave a small, sheepish smile. "Morning," he mumbled, rubbing at the corners of his eyes. "Morning, sleepyhead," I replied, handing him a mug. "Coffee?" He took it gratefully, and for a while, we just sat there, drinking in silence. It was a comfortable silence, the kind that comes after a storm when the air feels fresher, lighter. "I wanted to tell you more last night," he said finally, his voice low, "but I didn't know how to start. I'm different in ways I've been afraid to face." I nodded, waiting patiently. "Take your time, Jack. There's no rush and no judgment here." He set down his mug and looked at me with an intensity that made my chest tighten. "I think I've been holding back because I didn't trust anyone to really listen. And now, I feel like I can. I feel like maybe I'm allowed to be myself with you." It was a revelation, not just for him, but for me too. I realized that sometimes the people we love the most can be the hardest to reach because we assume we already know them. But Jack was reminding me that discovery never really ends. There's always more to learn, more layers to peel back, no matter how long we've known someone. I'm proud of you, Jack, I said softly, placing a hand over his. It takes courage to admit who you are, even when the world seems ready to judge. You're brave, and you're not alone. He exhaled, a long, trembling breath that seemed to carry years of uncertainty. I think I needed to hear that, more than I realized. We spent the morning talking, moving from small everyday stories to deeper reflections. Jack shared his struggles with self-doubt, the feeling of being unseen even among friends, and the quiet pressure of living up to expectations. And I listened, offering comfort, encouragement, and occasionally a gentle laugh to remind him that life isn't meant to be carried so heavily. By noon, the sunlight had fully brightened the room, and a sense of peace had settled over us. Jack looked lighter somehow, more open, as if admitting his truth had allowed him to breathe more freely. I felt it too, the relief of shared burdens, the warmth of being trusted completely by someone we love. And in that quiet morning, I understood that these moments, small, intimate, seemingly ordinary, are the ones that linger in our hearts. They are the conversations that shape relationships, teach us compassion, and remind us that the deepest connections are built not on perfection, but on honesty and love. That day, Jack and I both felt it, the beginning of something new. Something tender, real, and unshakably human. Evening came quietly, the sky painted in soft hues of lavender and rose, and I found myself sitting on the porch with Jack, our mugs of tea warming our hands. The day had passed with a gentle rhythm, one of shared laughter, honest conversation, and long pauses that didn't feel empty but full of understanding. There was something grounding about being outside, the air carrying the faint scent of blooming flowers and the distant hum of the neighborhood settling for the night. Jack leaned back in his chair, a thoughtful expression on his face. "Grandma," he said softly, "I don't think I ever realized how important it is just to be heard. Not advised, not fixed, just heard." I smiled, nodding. "Sometimes listening is the best gift we can give. You've given me the gift of your trust, and that's more precious than anything else." He took a slow sip of his tea, his eyes following the last streaks of sunset. "I've been carrying a lot of fear, and I didn't even know it until last night. But talking to you, it feels like I can start being myself without feeling ashamed." That made my heart swell. Watching him find a measure of peace, a moment of self-acceptance, reminded me that life's most profound experiences often come in quiet, unassuming ways. Not through grand gestures, but through presence, understanding, and the courage to be vulnerable. "I'm proud of you, Jack," I said, my voice steady but tender. "You've faced yourself honestly, and that's no small thing. The world can be harsh, but knowing who you are, and allowing others to know you too, is a kind of bravery that will guide you through everything." He nodded, a faint smile tugging at his lips. "I think I finally understand that. And I'm grateful for you for this. Everything. I feel like I can carry it forward now, instead of hiding it." We sat in silence for a few minutes, letting the twilight settle around us, the cool breeze brushing against our faces. The house behind us glowed warmly, a safe haven filled with memories and love. I realized then that these moments, the unexpected conversations at midnight, the quiet mornings, the shared silences, are what truly shape our lives. They remind us of the strength in honesty, the warmth in connection, and the freedom that comes from being fully seen. Jack finally stood, stretching with a small, contented sigh. "I should probably get ready for bed," he said, "but thanks for listening, for understanding, for just being here." I hugged him gently, holding him longer than usual. "Always, Jack, no matter what." You'll always have a place where you can be yourself." He smiled, a genuine, unguarded smile, and walked toward the stairs, leaving a lingering sense of peace in the room. I stayed on the porch a little longer, sipping my tea and watching the stars appear, thinking about how life often surprises us in the quietest, most unexpected ways. And as the night deepened, I felt a profound gratitude for the chance to witness Jack's courage, to be part of his journey, and to understand that sometimes the most meaningful connections happen when we simply open our hearts and listen. That night, I realized that love isn't just about holding on. It's about letting each other grow, knowing that even in the quietest hours, we are never truly alone.